You never expect betrayal to come from inside your own home. But mine came from across the hall, wrapped in my sister's smile and my parents' silence. It was just another slow Wednesday. I was folding laundry, thinking about dinner, when the knock came. Police, calm, prepared. 10 minutes later, I was in handcuffs. My mother pointed to my room like she was giving a house tour. My dad avoided eye contact. They found drugs in my bottom drawer. I laughed not because it was funny, but because the world had snapped in two. My sister didn't flinch. My parents backed her story, knowing it wasn't true. They told me, just take the blame, it's easier for everyone. But they didn't know I had a secret. Something small, plastic, and blinking quietly from the shelf. And once my lawyer showed them what it recorded, everything changed. It started with a knock, not the frantic kind, not loud or urgent, just two, spaced out, like someone arriving early for a dinner party. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door. 2 officers stood there, one tall and wiry, the other broad-shouldered with the kind of face that hadn't smiled in years. "Olivia Bennett?" the tall one asked. My throat tightened. "Yes?" "We received a report about controlled substances at this address. We'd like to come inside." For a second, I honestly thought they had the wrong house. This was ridiculous. But my mom appeared behind me, sipping tea like it was just another Tuesday. "Oh, officers," she said smoothly. "Her room's the second on the right." I turned to look at her. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She didn't even glance at me. Neither did my dad, standing behind her with his arms folded. No panic, no confusion, just order. The officers walked straight to my room like they already knew where to go. I followed in silence. My heart was pounding now, but my head hadn't caught up. This had to be some misunderstanding. Jessie must have done something, maybe this was about her. Then the shorter officer opened my bottom dresser drawer. And there it was. A Ziploc bag, full of pills. My world snapped, like someone had cracked the floor beneath me. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it felt surreal, like watching someone else's life collapse on a screen. "That's not mine," I said, my voice too calm to sound believable. The officers didn't react. They'd heard that line before. I turned to my parents. "You know that's not mine," I said louder. The tall officer looked at them. "You said you'd seen her with this before?" My mom nodded gently. "We weren't sure what it was, but she's been distant lately." My dad added, "Erratic, moody, always in her room." I stared at them. They were scripting my downfall like a scene they'd rehearsed. Then I saw her Jessie at the top of the stairs. Hoodie on. Phone in hand. She didn't blink, didn't move. I took a step toward her. "Tell them the truth." She just looked at me, blank, like I was noise she could tune out. "Don't make this worse than it already is," my mom said quietly. That's when they cuffed me. The metal bit into my wrists. Murphy, my dog, whimpered from the kitchen. He didn't bark, just watched, confused. I stepped outside into the sunlight, escorted like a criminal. And that was the last time I saw my home the way I used to. I used to think that if I behaved perfectly, they'd see me. If I got straight A's, never slammed a door, kept my voice soft, and my shoes lined up, maybe, just maybe, they'd look at me the way they looked at Jessie. They didn't. Jessie was the golden one. Born 3 years before me, with a smile that lit up rooms and a talent for always being in the right place at the right time. When she sang off-key at age 5, my mom cried. When I won the regional spelling bee, she forgot to attend. They weren't cruel, not in the ways you could put in a report. It was subtler than that. They simply edited me out of the narrative. Jessie brought home a lopsided clay bowl from art class. My mom cleared a space in the living room and set it on its own little pedestal. When I spent a week painting a watercolor for the school fair, a scene of our backyard, down to the white hydrangeas, it ended up in a drawer, next to expired coupons and a broken flashlight. They hosted an entire garden party for Jessie's piano recital. When I played a supporting role in a school play, they texted me afterward. "How did it go?" "Sorry, we thought it was just rehearsal." It was like I lived in the margins of their lives. Present, but not important. Reliable, but never remarkable. I learned not to take up space, to smile when they needed peace and disappear when they needed focus. And then came Murphy. Jessie had begged for a dog-made PowerPoint slides, color-coded charts, even cried in front of my dad. Eventually, they gave in. Murphy arrived in a cardboard crate, tail tucked, ears too big for his head. Jessie lost interest in less than a month. "He smells," she complained. "He chews things." He scratched the piano bench. My parents sighed. "Maybe we can find him another home." I was 11. "I'll take care of him," I said. "I'll walk him, feed him, train him." They didn't believe me, but they were too tired to argue, so they said yes. Murphy became mine. He slept curled at my feet, followed me room to room like I was his son. When I cried, he put his paw on my knee. When no one remembered my birthday, he sat by my side while I lit my own candle. He was the only one who chose me, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And in that house, that kind of love was rare. When Vanessa came back from college, no one asked why. She showed up one afternoon in August, duffel bag in hand, saying only, "It was toxic, I couldn't stay." My parents didn't blink. They just nodded and helped carry her things upstairs like she was some war-torn hero returning from a brutal front. She locked her door often, took long showers, had friends over at odd hours, guys with sunglasses indoors, hushed voices, and laughter that didn't feel safe. One of them called me kiddo and winked as he walked past me in the kitchen. I started noticing things: the sour, sweet smell under her door, the quick silences when I walked by, the way she flinched when anyone knocked too hard. She wasn't herself, or maybe she was more herself than ever, and I just didn't know who that was anymore. But in our house, asking questions was like setting off landmines. You didn't ask, you overreacted. You made drama, you stirred things up. So I didn't. I kept my mouth shut and my eyes open. Vanessa started lingering outside my room more, pausing near my door, hovering, watching me like she was waiting for something or maybe deciding something. I felt it. Something sharp building under the surface. Like a hairline crack in glass that no one notices until the whole window caves in. One night, I came home from work and found my door slightly ajar. I always closed it. Always. Inside, nothing looked disturbed. But Murphy growled that night when she walked past the hallway. He never did that before. And still, I said nothing. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe she was just curious, that she'd grown up, mellowed out, changed. She hadn't. But I wanted to believe she had, because if she hadn't, it meant danger. It meant premeditation. It meant my own sister, the one who used to braid my hair while humming Taylor Swift, might be plotting something far darker than resentment. Still, I didn't go to my parents. What would I even say? "Hey, I think Vanessa's hovering weirdly?" They'd roll their eyes. Tell me I was projecting again. Say I've always been a little too sensitive. So I let it go. I told myself nothing was wrong. And in doing so, I gave her the silence she needed. The silence she weaponized. The holding cell was colder than I imagined. Not just in temperature, but in presence, in purpose, in how it made you feel like you were no longer someone, just a case file with a heartbeat. The walls were painted, the kind of gray that erases thought. The bench was metal, bolted down, wide enough to sit, too narrow to sleep. And the light above me buzzed like it knew I didn't belong here, but wouldn't speak up. No one told me anything. No charges. No timeline. No lawyer. Just a door that closed and didn't open again. I stared at the wall until it blurred, then stared harder just to keep myself from crumbling. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. That's what they expected. That's what people like Vanessa count on for the quiet ones to break first. I wouldn't. But that didn't mean I didn't feel it, the ache, the confusion, the betrayal curling like frost inside my chest. I thought of Murphy. Would he sit by the door, waiting for footsteps that wouldn't come? Would he eat? Would he think I left him? The thought split me. He didn't deserve that. He never did. And what about Grandpa? Did they call him? Did his voice crack when they said my name? Would he believe them? Or worse, would he stay silent, just like everyone else? The hours passed without shape, just a flat, dull nothingness stretching endlessly. I looked down at my wrist, still red from the cuffs. No one had asked if I was okay. Not one officer, not my parents, not even Vanessa. And somehow, the part that stung the most wasn't the cell, the accusation, or the betrayal. It was the knowing, the certainty that no one was coming. That my family had always been built on conditional love and quiet rejection, and now that rejection had a charge sheet and a jail ID. I closed my eyes. And for the first time, I let myself ask the question I'd been holding back for years. If they never saw me, did I ever really exist to them at all? They brought me into the visitation room like I was a prop in someone else's story. Plastic chairs, a table bolted to the floor, a guard in the corner pretending not to listen. Everything smelled like bleach and resignation. My parents were already there. They looked composed, like they were waiting for a brunch table that was running late. My mom wore a pale blouse, her lipstick perfect. My dad sat with his hands clasped in front of him, his posture somewhere between polite and bored. Neither of them stood when I walked in. I sat. The silence folded over us like heavy fabric. Then my mother smiled soft, practiced. "Are they treating you okay?" It was the kind of question you ask a guest about hotel pillows. "They gave me a sandwich," I said flatly. She nodded, as if that answered something important. My dad added, "We sent over some toiletries. They should get to you soon." I stared at both of them. You know it wasn't me. No reaction. My mom exhaled slowly, preparing for something pre-written. "Olivia, we need to focus on what happens next. What's done is done." "That's one way to avoid saying it out loud," I muttered. My dad leaned forward slightly. "No one's saying it was intentional." "You mean the drugs Vanessa planted in my dresser?" I snapped. My mom winced barely. "Olivia, this isn't the time for stories." Stories. They thought I was making this up. Or worse, they knew I wasn't and were choosing not to care. "You're really going to let this happen?" I said. "You're going to sit here and let them do this to me?" "You're young," my dad said. "This won't follow you forever." My mom nodded in agreement. "If we escalate this, Olivia, it could get worse. For all of us." There it was. The family before the truth. Then I asked the only question that mattered to me anymore. "What are you going to do with Murphy?" They blinked. My dad was first to speak. "He's fine, but he's old. And, well, you're not coming home soon." My mother's tone softened with rehearsed pity. "He doesn't understand what's happening. It's not fair to leave him wondering." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. "You're not putting him down." My mom gave me that soft, awful look I hated more than her anger. "We'll do what's best." And that's when I knew. They hadn't come to see me. They came to manage the fallout. I barely slept that night. The bench in the cell might as well have been concrete. My head throbbed from fluorescent buzzing and unspoken questions. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Murphy's face, tilted at the door, waiting for a sound that wouldn't come. Then, like a single light turning on in a blackout, I remembered. The bear. It was sitting on my bookshelf, brown, button-eyed, with a faded red bow, a gift from a school raffle. No one ever paid attention to it, not Jessie, not my parents. But I had. Last year, Murphy had started having small seizures. They weren't serious, but they scared me. I bought a cheap, motion-triggered nanny cam, nothing fancy, $30 online. I stitched it into the eye of the bear and aimed it at my room specifically toward the dresser. It saved recordings to a micro SD card. No cloud, no Wi-Fi, just local memory. I never told anyone. Not because I was hiding it, but because no one ever asked. And now it might be the only thing in the world standing between me and a felony conviction. But I had to move fast. Because if Jessie realized it was there, if my parents found it first, they'd erase everything. They'd already erased me. They'd do it to the footage too. I was allowed one phone call. I used it. When Layla, my best friend, picked up, her voice was sleepy. "Hello?" "Layla," I whispered. "It's me. I need a favor. Now." "Are you okay?" "No. But listen, my bookshelf. The bear with the red bow. There's a camera inside. It's facing my dresser. It records. Take it. Today. Please." A pause. Then, "I'm on it. Also, get Murphy. Don't leave him there." Olivia. "No time. Don't ask questions. Just go. Don't tell anyone. And don't leave it behind." "I won't." I exhaled. It felt like the first real breath I'd taken since the cuffs clicked shut. She hung up. And now all I could do was wait. Wait and pray the card hadn't filled up. That the bear hadn't been moved. That Jessie hadn't noticed. And most of all, that I wasn't too late. I told no one, not even the public defender assigned to me. But when the door opened the next day and a new lawyer stepped into the room, something shifted. She was young, sharp-eyed, holding a file with my name on it and a laptop bag. "Olivia Bennett," she said, glancing down at her notes. "I'm Harper Lane, your legal counsel. My parents hired you?" "Technically, yes, but I work for you." She sat, unbothered, efficient. "I reviewed the arrest report, but I'd like to hear your side." I hesitated. "You won't believe me." Harper didn't blink. "Try me." So I did. I told her everything. About Jesse, the silence, the hallway, the cuffs, and then about the bear. She didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, she asked one question. "Do you trust the friend you called?" "With my life." "Then let's hope that bear saw something." And just like that, for the first time, I felt the faintest pulse of power return. It wasn't over. Not yet. The courthouse conference room smelled like stale coffee and denial. Everything was beige, the walls, the carpet, the laminated furniture. Even the light above us flickered with hesitation, like it didn't want to witness what was about to happen. Harper and I sat at one side of the table. Across from us, my parents, Jesse. My mom wore a buttoned blouse and a tension smile. My dad looked at his watch like he had better places to be. Jessie had her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, eyes darting, legs crossed too tightly. No one said hello. Harper opened her folder. "Before we begin," she said, voice calm, professional, "I'd like to present a short piece of video evidence." She turned her laptop around. Pressed play. The room went still. There was Jessie, on screen, walking into my room, alone, calm. She glanced over her shoulder. Paused. Then pulled a Ziploc bag from her hoodie sleeve. Opened my bottom drawer. Placed it inside. Closed it. Left. Timestamp, 1 day before my arrest. No sound, no hesitation, no mistake. My mother's face went white. Not like fear, like vacancy. As if every part of her that could deny had suddenly shut down. My dad leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes locked on the screen like it might rewind and offer a different ending. Jessie didn't blink. Didn't flinch. She just stared at herself, watching the betrayal happen in real time. When the video ended, the silence cracked open. Then Jessie spoke. "It was supposed to be nothing," she blurted. "She wasn't even supposed to get arrested. I thought it'd scare her, that's all." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Would you like to revise your official statement, Miss Bennett?" My mother swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. "We were trying to protect the family. You don't understand." "No," I said softly. "I do. I've always understood. That's the problem." Jessie whipped toward me. "You think you're better than us, don't you? You've always acted like some victim, like you're above it all. You make everything harder." My voice didn't rise. I didn't flinch. "I don't think I'm better. I just think I deserved better than this." My dad muttered, "This isn't helping." Harper calmly closed her laptop. "We'll be submitting the footage to the prosecutor. The defense will be moving to dismiss all charges. We'll also be filing for obstruction and perjury." My mom's breath caught. Jessie looked down at the table, her lips pressed tight. My dad said nothing. And for once I didn't need to. They sat there, the three of them unraveling in front of me. And I stayed still, whole. It was the first time I'd ever seen them look small. And I wasn't going to look away. 3 weeks later, I was sitting on my grandfather's porch, wrapped in a flannel blanket, Murphy curled under my feet like he finally knew I wasn't leaving again. The wind smelled like pine and old wood. The porch swing creaked every few seconds, just enough to feel like a heartbeat. Grandpa brought me a glass of water, set it down beside me, and sat across like we were about to talk about the weather. But he didn't ask how I was. He just said, "I told them, about the trust." I blinked. "What trust?" He shrugged. "Couple weeks before they had you arrested, I made it official. I told your parents that everything, the house, the accounts, was going to you. They didn't take it well." I stared. "You never told me." "Didn't think I needed to," he said. "Apparently I did." He stood, opened the drawer of the porch table, and handed me a thick envelope. "It's done, signed, irrevocable. They can't touch it." I ran my fingers along the seal. "Why me?" He looked at me for a long time before answering. "Because you show up. You show up when nothing's in it for you. You listen when no one else does. You were always the one worth protecting. They just never bothered to notice." I didn't have words. Only the warmth in my throat, The kind that comes when someone really sees you for the first time. Vanessa pled guilty. 2 felony counts. Possession with intent to distribute and conspiracy to file a false report. She took a deal. 3 years in a women's correctional facility. First parole hearing in 2. She cried in court. Said it was about money, about the will, about feeling like she never had enough. It didn't help. My parents? Charged with obstruction of justice, perjury, and conspiracy. 18 months in county jail. 2 years supervised probation. No plea deals. No way to spin the story anymore. They stopped speaking not just to me but to each other. According to Harper, the silence between them in court was louder than anything they'd ever said aloud. Turns out, the truth didn't destroy them. Turning on each other did. I still think about what might have happened if I hadn't remembered the bear, if I hadn't made that call, if I'd stayed quiet the way they were counting on. They almost took everything from me. My name. My dog. My future. Almost. But not quite. Now I live in the yellow house with the creaky porch and too many picture frames. Murphy's older, slower, but still loyal as ever. And me? I'm building something quietly, deliberately. A life that doesn't depend on being noticed. A life that doesn't shrink for anyone. They tried to erase me. Turns out, I was the only one holding the pen. Looking back, I realized this story was never just about betrayal, it was about faith. When even my own family turned their backs on me, when I sat in a cold jail cell with no one to call and no one who believed me, I remembered something my grandfather used to say. God sees what others ignore. In that silence, I wasn't alone. The Lord was with me. He was there when I remembered the camera. He was there when truth finally came to light. It wasn't luck. It wasn't strategy. It was grace. Divine protection in the form of a quiet bear on a shelf and a loyal dog at my side. Sometimes, the people you love most will hurt you. But God never will. To those watching, especially the older generation who know the sting of being overlooked, remember, your worth isn't defined by who validates you. It's written by the one who made you. Psalm 27:10 says, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel and leave a comment. Your words may encourage someone who's still in the valley.